In this lesson, we are going to learn the difference between a relative and absolute cell reference in Microsoft Excel. This may seem a little confusing now, but it will make more sense later when you use the copy and paste features of Excel and there are cell references in the cells that you are copying and pasting. So let's talk about a relative cell first. A relative cell reference is the letter-number combination of a cell that you learned in a previous lesson. So in this example here, if I click in A1 here, A1 for apples, the relative cell reference is just A1. Oranges is just A2. Just the letter and just the number. Now, it's relative because if later you decide to copy and paste or autofill cells as you build out your spreadsheet, a relative cell reference in a pasted or autofilled cell will automatically update itself to the new relative cell. Now that's a lot of confusing words, so let's look at an example to see how this works. So I have here A1 is apples, like I mentioned earlier, and in A2 is oranges. And also in B1 I have grapefruit, and B2 I have bananas. Now I know we haven't learned formulas yet, but I'm going to kind of use one right here. It's really more of a cell reference, but in cell D1 I have a formula here saying equals A1. And for now just know that that means put in this cell whatever is in the cell A1. So you can see since cell 1 is apples, D1 now has apples. And I'm not going to show you the copying and pasting, but if I copied this cell and moved one to the right and pasted it, which is what I've already done, when you look at cell E1, remember D1 said equals A1, but when I copied it and pasted it here, it doesn't say equals A1, it says equals B1. The difference is it's a relative cell reference. So when I had it referencing A1 and I copy and pasted the cell one to the right, Excel automatically updated the formula to go one to the right to be B1 instead of A1. And you may wonder why you would need to do this, but this is very useful later to have these relative cell references, and there's also uses to have the other one, which we haven't talked about yet, which is the absolute cell reference. But what you can see here is when I copied cell D1 to cell E1, it did update the reference of the cell from equals A1 up here, and when I pasted it, it changed it, it being Excel, changed it to equals B1. Now, an absolute reference, on the other hand, will not update itself when copy and pasted or autofilled. And to create an absolute cell reference in Excel, you put a $ in front of the letter, the number, or both. The part with the $ in front of it will not get updated when you copy and paste or autofill. Most of the examples of absolute references you will see in these video lessons will have a $ in front of both the letter and the number. Again, for now, to keep things simple, let's just look at an example. So I'm going to jump down here to D2, and now instead of saying equals A2 to get the oranges over here, you notice I put equals $A, $2. I put a $ in front of a letter and then a $ in front of the number. Those are the ones you're going to see most often again in these video lessons. So that is saying I want an absolute reference to A2. So oranges is an A2. So when I say I want an absolute reference, right now it appears to be doing the same thing that the relative reference did. So I put equals $A, $2, and I get oranges from cell A2. The difference here is when I copy cell D2 over to cell E2, because of the $, Excel will not do what it did in the row above and update the A to a B. Because I have the $, it knows don't touch those and leave them exactly the same as they are. So when I copy this and paste, I get exactly the same thing, $A, $2. Again, let's quickly look at the relative reference. When I copied A1, one cell to the right, Excel changed it to B1 because there were no dollar signs and it was a relative reference. Down here, when I put $A, $2, and copy and pasted it one to the right, it kept it exactly the same with $A, $2. I realize we are jumping the gun a bit since we haven't really got into formulas yet, or even copying, pasting, or autofills. But this concept of relative versus absolute cell references really becomes important later, so I want you to understand it as much as you can and then just sort of tuck it away for now. In later lessons, you will see these relative, no dollar sign, and absolute, with the dollar sign, cell references and how they are used in real-world examples.